Happy Friday. We're about 3/4 of the way through the WNBA season, and Jesse Morrison, Phoenix Mercury beat writer at The Next, is here to chat everything from the team's historic fourth quarter last night to the team's recent homestand, Diana Taurasi's 10,000th point, and what's next for the team.
Ogunbowale for the win.
Good! You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Hello and happy Friday. You are locked on to women's basketball. I'm Natalie Heavren, and I'm a features writer and the Atlantic 10 beat reporter for The Next. Thanks for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Women's Basketball is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat with any purchase. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise you. So today we'll be chatting all about the Phoenix Mercury from their recent homestand to Diana Taurasi's 10,000th point and what's next for the team. Joining me today is Jesse Morrison, who covers the Phoenix Mercury here at The Next. A little more about thenexthoops.com. If this is your first time listening to Locked On Women's Basketball, we have over 100 reported pieces every single month. We have a beat reporter on every single WNBA team beat. So get that YouTube subscription up, along with reporting throughout the rest of the WNBA season and into the college season as well. $9 a month, $72 a year, thenexthoops.com. So, Jesse, about last night's game, Phoenix won its second game in a row, I believe, third in the last 4 games, improving the team to a 9-20 record. But how they did it was quite impressive. You were there last night. What was the first quarter of the game against the Sun like?
They just could not miss. It was an unbelievable offensive performance. It was so weird that my description for the game last night was just weird because it's just this team setting that record is just very surprising. But they did it again by just really good passing. They took advantage of Connecticut not exactly coming out in their best form defensively. Just again, everybody made their shots, 16 of 17 from the field. And then, they go on to score 45 points the rest of the game.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting way to wake up. I'm on the East Coast, so I did not stay up for the rest of the game. But yeah, as Jesse was saying, 16 of 17 from the floor, 45 points, which is the most points in a WNBA quarter. Obviously you can't shoot 94% from the floor for the entire game, but what happened the rest of the game? Did the Sun defense disrupt the flow, or did everything just kind of even out after shooting 94%?
They just tightened up. They guarded players closer. They doubled BG. Like in the first quarter, they came out and they weren't really doubling BG, which is not a great strategy. But then they came out, and they put more people on BG most of the night. She still ended up with 21 and 10. It's pretty hard to stop BG. But they really did lock in on defense, and they made it really honestly nervous for Phoenix fans. It was a 1-point game late in the fourth quarter. Their offense was not bad all game. Like, they had 24 points in the first quarter. That's not bad. They were scoring well the whole game. So once they locked in on defense, and Phoenix, started to turn the ball over, they did a good job forcing turnovers. Once Phoenix started to turn the ball over, it became a close game.
And what were your overall takeaways from last night's game? Was it how great the offense can be? Was it, something about consistency? What were your immediate takeaways?
My biggest takeaway is that it was just the 2023 Phoenix Mercury in a nutshell, like personified. They come out, they're just amazing offensively in a quarter, and then they score 7 points in the next quarter. Like, that's been this team this entire season, is just once they start to get it going, they just don't sustain it. They're kind of like a college team. I don't know if you know, like in college, how they'll come out, there'll be a team that comes out and has a 40, not maybe a 40-point quarter, but like a 30-point quarter, and then the rest of the game they struggle. That's kind of how this Phoenix team is. It's just very interesting that they've just not been able to find that consistency this year, because they have a good roster. Depth was something that was questioned heading into the season. They're actually a really deep team. Their bench has been able to really provide a spark, especially as of late with Sutton, Megan Gustafson, Michaela Onyenwere, especially. So again, it was just a personification of, like, why can't this team continue playing well through an entire game or through a stretch of a few games, or on the road instead of at home. It's just a very, it just showed that personified last night.
We'll get back to home versus away in a minute, but what was the team like post game? An up and down game, really personified. What was the post game like?
I mean, they were in pretty good mood. Nobody really talked about how they were like super frustrated with how they played the rest of the game. Nikki Blue did take some accountability for some of her rotations not exactly being great the rest of the game. But they also just talked about the first quarter and how just insane that was. And I believe it was Mariah Jefferson who actually she banked in a shot at a three at the buzzer of the first quarter to give Phoenix the record. She said, I believe that Michaela Onyenwere told her that they were 16 of 17 in the first quarter, and she was just like wowed by that. So they were happy with the win, but again, Nikki Blue did take some accountability for kind of her rotations the rest of the game. And then, they talked a little bit about how Connecticut's defense, improved as the game went on.
So, as we mentioned, the Phoenix Mercury just wrapped up a 4-game homestand. What are your takeaways from the homestand as a whole?
They scored 90 points in each game, at least 90 points in each home game this season, or on this homestand. And, my biggest takeaway is just, again, they're so much better at home this year than they are on the road. It's just like a night and day difference from their last road trip to when they came home. And then obviously there were just a bunch of like milestones. It was just an interesting road trip. You had DT hitting hitting 10,000 points. And then you had Brittany Griner passing DeWanna Bonner for most rebounds in Phoenix Mercury history. You had Sophie Cunningham reaching her 1,000th career point. And then you had this quarter points record. It was so many milestones, so much like history, I guess, made in the span of 4 games that it was just like every night you're going to the arena and something happens. And I think it's pretty cool, honestly.
Coming up next, we'll get to talk about Diana Taurasi's 10,000th point, as Jesse just mentioned, and what it means for the league. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Summer is here, so it's time to pull your bird dogs out of the closet. Bird Dogs are stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg and give you a truly sculpted look. They do all the same things as Lululemon shorts, but fit way better. They also have a way better fit than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fixed this issue by inventing a cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Even better, Bird Dogs uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool all day and dry all day long, which is so important, especially in the warm summer months. Bird Dogs are so great. I've bought them for my fiance, my brothers, my dad. They all love them and say they're more comfortable than regular stiff cotton shorts. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat. You won't want to take your bird dogs off. We promise you. Thanks for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. I'm here for you every other Friday, and every Saturday, make sure to tune into Hunter, and Lincoln and check out our coverage of women's basketball at the Next 24/7, 365. So, Jesse, as we were just talking about, it has been an eventful last week and a half for the Phoenix Mercury. First, can you just walk me through Diana Taurasi scoring her 10,000th point?
Well, they put a lot of pressure on her to score her 10,000th point. So at the arena that night, they had a pin of live goats. That was funny. But again, it was, they expected her to get it. And, she was 18 points away, which is not easy at 41 years old to get in a game. And then they had little placards on every seat that said, congrats DT 10,000 or something like that. And so, coming into the game, that's a lot of pressure to get the record. And then early in the third quarter, she got the record. It was an amazing shot to get the record, or not the record. I mean, she's already had the record, but the first player to ever hit 10,000 points. The shot to hit 10,000 points was a deep three, hand in her face, just nailed it. And then she just kept going and ended up with 42 points in a 20-point win. It was like watching Diana Taurasi in 2010 again. It was totally a blast from the past, and it was just kind of what we had seen even on another level the past few games leading up to that. She just turned back the clock recently, with just great performances. And the thing that has been wild about it is she was not efficient for the first part of the season this year. And for the past few games, she's just been so efficient. It's been watching her 2018 and before, before all the injuries started, before she, aged a little bit. And so it's just been kind of incredible to watch. And, they stopped the game for a little bit, let her teammates mob her on the floor. And then after the game, there were a lot of cool messages. Billie Jean King, Magic Johnson, among others, Steve Nash, Penny Taylor, obviously, recorded a message, Diana's wife, Phoenix legend. So, that was cool. And they presented her with 3 gifts, including some really sweet looking Jordans that were, purple and orange. A little jealous of those. But it was crazy. It was cool. She finally talked about it, which was nice. She would usually just kind of deflect the answer and be like, oh, I just hope somebody else can break it. And, she finally did reflect on it, thanked people for getting her to this point. Her parents especially were people that she thanked. So just very, very cool night, very cool experience to be there and watch that moment. And she's now well over 10,000 points after the next few games. So who knows, maybe 11,000.
Yeah, I think seeing the reactions from her teammates was really great. I did stay up for that. Again, East Coast, these 10 p.m. games are a little tough, but I knew that was definitely one she was going. That was one to watch to make sure I saw that. Reflecting back over your time, watching the team, covering the team, what's been your favorite Diana Taurasi moment?
Ooh, I think it's got to be that shot against Seattle in the playoffs in 2018.
Yep.
Game winner, I believe. Ryan Rucco on the call for ESPN said, like, the GOAT delivers. That shot was just a killer instinct moment. And that was kind of my first year where I really got into the WNBA. I've watched before, but that was the first year that I was like really attending games. And so that was probably my favorite moment of her career for sure. And then, just getting the opportunity to cover her. I didn't know if I would. I think that's really, really cool. I didn't get that, at 41 years old, I didn't know if she was going to come back this season. And, she did. And, luckily this opportunity came about and I've gotten the chance to cover her. And, it's been a really great experience. I know she doesn't love necessarily doing media, but when she does media, she's very, engaging and doesn't really have any issues with your questions or anything. So, that's been great.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite Diana Taurasi moments as well. But really, that entire semifinal series with Seattle. Do you think anyone is in WNBA history is going to reach 10,000 points?
Yes, I do. 40 game season now. I don't know if that number will get raised. I expect that they'll probably play more games at some point. 44 or 48, who knows? But we see some great players right now. Brianna Stewart, for example, Arike Gumbawale. Maybe one of them reaches it. Maybe somebody that's not even in the league yet. I don't like, putting these kind of expectations on players, but maybe a Caitlin Clark comes in and can reach that point. I think that it's very doable at this point, just because of Diana's played most of her career with 34 game seasons. She even had a 22 game season and a 32 game season in there because of COVID. So I just don't see why that's not something that can be reached. I just don't know if somebody's going to be able to now break her record, though, because she's continuing to play and continuing to score points. And again, the efficiency has just out of nowhere been good again. And so on a nightly basis, she's putting up 15, 20 points, adding to that mark. So that's where I'm like, I don't know if somebody's actually going to break her scoring record, but reaching 10,000, I think it's doable.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well, kind of for the same reasons, the fact that there's more games. We don't know what the future of the WNBA is going to bring, but I think definitely more games will come and therefore more opportunities to score. But I do think that Diana Taurasi will long be remembered for that moment, and that shot will definitely go down in history. Coming up next, we'll talk about who has stood out for the Mercury recently, and what's ahead for the team? So, Jesse, we've talked about this a little bit in the Slack, but Araya Abdeen just wrote about Megan Gustafson. What have you seen from her this season?
She's been a really good player, especially in the past month. Just kind of looked like a different player. First month of the season, she was getting in very sparingly, not doing too much. But she's just really found another gear, and is just tough. That's what I've noticed the most about her. She's just tough. She's playing with plantar fasciitis, which I have no idea how that works. I've talked to people that say that's one of the worst injuries and just feels awful all the time. So yeah, she's able to play through that and has been able to have a career year while playing through that. And she'll get hit in the nose and nosebleed and keep going out there. Her she'll go back to the bench and her arms are bright red because she's just been taking shots, but she fights through it. Good amount of and ones you'll see from her. And then something that's kind of sneaky about her game is, she's a center, but she can step out and she can knock down the three. And that's been a huge bonus for Phoenix. And she's gotten better at that as of late. So she'll knock down a three, maybe once a game, sometimes, once every other game, but it's a big shot and, can really space the floor for Phoenix. So again, she's just been just kind of gone to another gear. Confidence, I think, has grown a lot with Megan, where she's like, wait a minute, I can do this. Versus, I don't know what her mindset was before this, but I think that, she's kind of remembering that, she was the Naismith Player of the Year in college. And she's capable of doing things. And she just seems like a way more confident player, way more willing to just catch the ball and go to work than she was. And I think that it's helped that she's had BG. She's been backing up BG and she mentioned that how much she's loved backing up BG. I think that going up in practice, going up against, one of the greatest centers of all time in practice has to help you figure out how to score, figure out how to, play against what BG provides. So, I think that there's a lot of different factors, but that one for sure is up there.
And then, is there anyone else that surprised or impressed you this season?
Yeah. I wrote a story long time ago, like early in the season, about what Shug Sutton has done.
Mm-hmm.
And Shug Sutton, very minimal time in the WNBA heading into this season. Obviously, she made the team, scored double figures in the first game right out of the gate. And she has kind of just continued to be a really good bench spark for the team. Totally has established herself as a viable WNBA player. Really good passer, very quick player, can shoot the three pretty solidly. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely Shug who has stood out to me. And then I will say that Michaela Onyenwere has been, I don't really know what to expect from her. She obviously had a really good rookie season in 2021, kind of took a step back last year, but she's right back into where she was as a rookie in New York in 2021. She's been up there probably for most improved player in the WNBA this year. Great bench spark. I don't know how she didn't really vibe in the starting lineup. When Vanessa Nygaard was the coach, she would start Michaela, but she's really good in her role as coming off. Again, she can shoot three. which is it really helps as a bench player to come in and be able to knock down threes, provide that spark. So yeah, she's kind of surprised me a bit just because I didn't really know what to expect from her this year.
And, you've talked about the last few games in the homestand and kind of everything that's gone on in the last week and a half for the Mercury. But now we're about 3/4 of the way through the season. They have 11 games left to play. What do you expect to see from them as that unfolds over the next month or so?
Again, I just expect to see kind of an inconsistent team. They're heading on the road now where they're 1-13 versus 8-7 at home. So I think that we'll continue to see, unfortunately for Phoenix, we'll continue to see a team that is up and down, and will show stretches of being really good and then show stretches of not being very good. And the thing that is really key in all of this is they're 3.5 games back from a playoff spot, which is doable in 11 games. However, Chicago has the tiebreaker. Chicago is currently the 8th seed. So they've beaten them 2 out of 3 times this year. So if they finish the same record, it's going to be Chicago taking the playoff spot. And so it's going to be a tough road for Phoenix to make the playoffs, I think, especially with their schedule coming up. They finish off the season again with 2 games against the Aces. They have Liberty next Friday, and they have a good amount of road games to finish up the season. So it's gonna be tough for them to make the playoffs, but maybe they finally find the consistency this year. I don't expect it to happen, but at least this season it's not been just like completely terrible down in the dumps because of all these milestones and getting BG back. Those things have been real positives with this team, but you've got your negatives out there. Obviously the Skylar Diggins-Smith situation, and then just again inconsistency with this team has been the name of the game this year. We'll see what they can do next 11 games, see if they can make a playoff push, but with just how inconsistent they are, especially on the road, it's just I don't expect it to happen.
Well, who knows? We might have you on again to discuss. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jesse. Definitely learned a lot. Where can the people find you and your work?
Just at thenexthoops.com. Follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is right there, right below my name. Or I guess X. I don't know what they're calling it these days. But yeah, follow me there. You'll see everything that I do, both for the Next and outside of the Next. I'm very busy at this time of year.
And for those of you who are listening on Spotify or just not on YouTube where there's no video, Jesse's Twitter handle is at Morse Code without an I, so MORRSCODE_. And thank you so much to our listeners for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. I'm here for you every other Friday and every Saturday. Make sure to tune into Hunter and Lincoln. They've lately been working on a great retrospective series that I've really enjoyed, looking at old game film, news reports, stats, and more to determine the best WNBA prospect.